Hello, everyone. Most news sources, domestic and foreign, are reporting on U.S. vote on the UN resolution regarding the war in Ukraine, in which basically Russia is not held accountable for anything. Which is disgusting, but not surprising. This officially drives a wedge between the US and its European allies and positions US in a certain way on the global stage. Do you remember, those of you who were around already when 9/11 happened? Then President George W. Bush identified what he said, the axis of evil. Well, I think US now is part of that group. It's siding with a terrorist state that likes to invade its neighbors just cause. If that's not evil, I don't know what is. At this time, I think everybody's digesting, but I am sincerely hoping that European nations are taking a long, hard look at their future with this position and figuring out what they're going to do next. Once again, I hope they cut the cord. I hope they figure out how to function without the US, since the US is no longer an ally. And while this move is revolting, it's hardly surprising. Only recently, when asked repeatedly whether he agreed that Russia invaded Ukraine, Trump basically said, "I'm so tired of hearing about it." Really? Imagine how tired people of Ukraine are of the fact that Russia is invading them. I still think he should go there. I don't think he will, because he's a fucking coward. But that would be interesting. This too is hardly surprising, although I know many people are going to say, well, the gall of the guy. So, what is this all about? Russia too is rich in rare minerals, and it's trying to make its own deal with the US about the rare minerals. What's appalling about this is that he wants to sell to the US the rare minerals located in the Ukrainian territories that he had invaded. So imagine if somebody broke into your house, took residence in a portion of it, and then started selling the stuff that is in that part of your house. That's what Putin is intending to do. Whether this will come to anything, I'm not sure. However, a word of caution: to find out what's happened to anyone and everyone who ever attempted to be a friend of Russia, one only needs to pick up a history textbook. Usually things did not work out so well. And once again, I'd like to remind everybody that Russia still has its eye on Alaska and taking that back. That never went anywhere. So that will come up sooner or later. And U.S. government and the people of the U.S. had better figure out what they're going to do when that happens. This was interesting. So Francis Macron had met with Trump. That had to be a stressful situation, but he did something which in the US is kind of a power move. When Trump was answering questions about the aid to Ukraine, Macron actually interrupted him and answered the question for him. I'm wondering whether the significance of that actually sunk in with Trump. I'm sure it did with people who were in the room at the time. Why Scotland? So this article is on the BBC website. Why is it important that Scotland is marking the third anniversary of war in Ukraine? First of all, quite a few Ukrainian refugees live there. I mentioned before, Europe and UK both are housing something like 6.5 million Ukrainian refugees. So some of them reside in Scotland. Second, Scotland itself is a place with a long history of the fight for independence, for its values, for its own historical foundations. So they get it. And I sincerely appreciate the sentiment, because it is a voice of support at this time that is very, very dark for Ukraine. I don't know what his plan is. So Zelensky says he's hoping to end the war this year. How? What are you going to do? Now, there was a rather remarkable statement from him recently. He said that he would give up his presidency in exchange for NATO membership for Ukraine, which is an amazing thing to say. I don't know if anybody will take him up on this, but that would resolve the criticism of those who are saying, well, Ukraine hadn't had an election. This is from Kyiv Independent. EU apparently is offering its own rare minerals deal to Ukraine, which I think Ukraine should look at very carefully. Personally, I would say collaborating with EU is much better right now than collaborating with the US. US will betray Ukraine to Russia in a moment, at the drop of a hat. So I'm hoping that this particular offer is being looked at with utmost regard. And once again, Macron has the right idea. We are looking for peace, not a capitulation. I'd like to remind everybody that over the course of this war, over the last 3 years, there has been an attempt to negotiate peace. What they managed to achieve, the two sides managed to achieve, was a ceasefire, which Russia then used to regroup, reorganize troops, accumulate more weapons, and continue pounding away at Ukrainian civilians. So that's why there has to be a peace and not a capitulation, and security guarantees. Ukrainians hit another oil refinery in the city of Ryazan. Good. Always good when they hit Russia where it hurts. And then there is, again, this is also Kyiv Independent. There's an excellent summary on the state of the front line. I have been pointing out to a lot of people who are saying, well, why is there no progress? Have you seen the length of that front line? That thing is long. That is huge. And Ukrainian forces are stretched pretty thin. What killed me in this particular article is a mention of Elon Musk's statement questioning what Ukrainians are fighting for. Are you completely stupid? It's their country. They're fighting for their country. Of course, Musk has no country at this point. He goes wherever there is money for him to be had, money and power, so I don't think he would understand. But I suggest pop into Kyiv Independent, as I mentioned before. They have a very good English language version. And read this article. Talks about both Russian progress and Russian losses during this war, month by month. It's a great breakdown, great analysis, and gives you kind of a very solid perspective as to what is going on at the front. More to come.